All right, Bulls and Bears, welcome to another dose of economic reality. A lot of news to get into today. Manufacturing is shrinking in the U.S., just the opposite of what we're told was going to happen. We also have consumer confidence, another one of these reports just came out, and we just hit a 12-year low. We've got a lot of other financial news, housing, the stock market, investing, a lot of other stuff to get caught up on, layoffs, jobs, axing of these agencies and more. Let's go ahead and get into it right now. Starting right here. Consumer confidence, folks, 12-year low. And this is the forward-looking consumer confidence. I think a lot of people are disappointed. We were supposed to see lower prices out of the gate just as the new administration took over. We're actually not seeing that. And of course, the argument is that, well, give it time. It's only been a couple months. We're going to get 6 months down the road. We're going to get a year down the road. They're going to say, okay, it's only been a year. We'll get 2 years down the road. Oh, we still have a couple more years to go. Folks, by the time the 4 years is done and everything flips back the other direction, I mean, are we really going to see much of a difference here, right? On the flip side, though, a lot of people are saying that with all the axing of these agencies, we're going to see drastic changes. I think changes are going to be for the worse, though. As far as I can see, because you're going to see a lot more people on the unemployment line and collecting unemployment. In fact, we have a recent chart out here, and here's how Axios put it. Job applications surge from workers at DOGE-targeted agencies. Well, yeah, let's take a look here. So the agencies that were cut in the green, huge spike up there, folks. Of course, when you lose your job, you're going to be looking for work. And so it's kind of a no-brainer. But thanks to Axios, I guess, for giving us this nice-looking chart here. But yeah, of course. And I said this here months ago. I said the job market's going to get very, very tight. You have millions of people now looking for new jobs. Somebody at my company actually just applied for a job, and they were told they were going up against over 600 other applicants for not an entry-level job, but a job that didn't require that much experience or a college degree. And that could be the case. I guess the bar was low, but 600 applicants for one job. And it wasn't even that well of a paying job. It didn't even pay six figures. But people are scrambling to find any sort of work, especially remote work, because so many companies are calling people back to the office. So if you're trying to get a remote job right now, it's going to be very, very tough. I mean, if you've gotten a job in the past month or two, especially a remote job, please let me know down in the comments. Was it difficult? Did you have a bunch of interviews and maybe you didn't get a job? Either way, please let us know down in the comments. But it looks very, very tight. And of course, this chart from Axios, tells us the huge spike in all these people looking for jobs. And just in February alone, there were over 10,000 federal jobs cut. And there's a bunch of other ones tied up in court right now, a bunch of other ones on the chopping block or on the assembly line to being cut. So we're going to see some big, big changes and economic shifts here happening very soon. But some of the shifts are coming out of the gate not looking so good. Take a look at what just happened to manufacturing. U.S. manufacturing is shrinking again as the tariffs are setting in. Monday's PMI numbers gave an unduly rosy picture of growth, city economists wrote. And it goes on here to say the overall reading fell to 49.8, and anything below 50 basically marks a contraction. With the employment index also showing shrinkage and the new orders measure slowing, input costs picked up much more than output prices. And I'll be very shocked again. I've got to mention this again. I'll be very shocked if we see a lot of manufacturing come back to the U.S. We're actually seeing some companies announce that they're coming back to the U.S., but how long is it going to last when the cost of living here and the demand for higher wages is so much more than all these other countries? I think even more than what the tariffs are going to even compensate for. And the negative news, the negative outlook, the negative forecasts are everywhere. Here's one just recently out of Barron's. And they came out and said how to prepare for a declining U.S. economy. So according to a lot of these news outlets and economists that work for them, it's baked into the cake that we're going to have a huge economic decline. Well, when you pull back on the spending and when you cut so many jobs, which takes more spending out of the economy, and the economy runs on spending, consumers running up debt, you're going to see big, big changes. The question is, will they be beneficial to most people, or are they just going to help the people at the very top, and the working class, the middle class, is still going to be left struggling paycheck to paycheck? Basically, in this country, in the U.S., we have a disappearing middle class, and it's been a slow grind, and it's not that noticeable to people not really paying attention, but happens over a long period of time, right? So they do it slowly enough where most of the people don't pay attention. You really have to follow the news and just look at the facts compared to 10, 20, 30 years ago to see that we are in this elimination of the middle class. And we never used to see back in even the early 2000s, the 90s, the 80s, we never saw this many people living paycheck to paycheck, which is over 70% now. I forget the exact number. And there's a few different readings that come out, a few different surveys that analyze this. Some say 72%, some say 68%, some say even 75% people living paycheck to paycheck, meaning one missed paycheck and your monthly bills that you have to pay every month are not being paid. So that's utilities, that's your car payment, your mortgage, all those things. So what's Barron saying out of this article? How to prepare for a declining U.S. economy. Of course, they want us to subscribe. I'll pass on that. So we know how to prepare, folks. We know what's coming and what's likely to happen, and we know the right investments to get into. Of course, that's what we talk about here on this channel all the time. We know how to be defensive. But there's people out there with the opposite view. There's people out there saying, run up as much debt as possible now because prices next month and next year are going to be even more expensive. And I know people in my personal circle, family and friends that have this mentality. And I mean, I can't really say that they're wrong. I know somebody that just took a nice long cruise, and maybe if they wouldn't have taken it next year, 2 years from now, it would have been more expensive, right? Who can I say that they're wrong? When you see inflation go up like this, how can I say that they're actually wrong? All right, so you've got some people that say, don't spend, save your money. Other people say, what good is saving money if you're just losing value in your money just sitting in your bank, because it's losing value because of inflation all the time. So you've got to be investing. And if you're investing enough, you can do these things without having to worry. You can take vacations, buy the newer cars, even buy homes right now. I mean, if you have that type of income right now, it's an economy right now, and the cost of living and the price levels right now in this economy are cut out mostly for the top 10%. Those are the people that are doing very well. And we're seeing more and more wealth shift up to the top 10% all the time. Now, something that's been in the news that I haven't really talked about too much is this leaked war text messaging that came out. And I guess I'll mention it because it is an economic issue as well. We were told that the spending was going to drop off of a cliff, that we were done with foreign aid, that we were going to be no more wars because it cost too much. Well, here we go. I mean, they're talking about war. So looks like we were lied to. As far as the whole leak thing, I'll let you decide if you think that's completely true or on the up and up. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was true. And how, some of these people are not being very careful with this information. But who knows? We'll see what comes out of this and see if there's any other sort of kind of funny stuff that's going on with a lot of the stuff we see, a lot of the news over the past few years, especially a lot of funny stuff going on. You know what I'm talking about? All right, moving on here, folks. More tariffs against China. U.S. plans to tax Chinese ships. Hits choppy waters as backlash intensifies. We talked in our previous report about how Walmart and Costco were trying to get China to cover the cost of the tariffs. They were trying to get the suppliers basically to cut off about 10% of the prices of all these imports, and it didn't go as both Walmart and Costco wanted. In other words, China's basically calling their bluff, and they're saying, well, not so fast, we need to talk about this. But the U.S. being the number one consumer of goods and a consumer of goods from China, the U.S. feels like we have a lot of negotiation power and a lot of leverage, and these retailers also feel that the U.S. has this type of authority to basically call the shots. We'll see how this plays out, though. Plans to tax Chinese ships. So what's this about? The government is facing growing opposition over its plans to introduce fees targeting Chinese-linked ships. So not just the goods are being tariffed, it's now the ships. Extra fees here entering American ports, with global shipping bodies and industry experts slamming the proposals as disruptive and counterproductive. The U.S. would impose charges of up to 1.5 million per port call for any shipping operator with Chinese-made vessels in their fleets. So are we going to start manufacturing ships now in the U.S. because of this? I mean, this is what this type of war, basically trade war, economic war, financial war, that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to shift manufacturing back to the U.S. by penalizing importers. And in this case, not just the items, but the actual vessels. So it tells me that we're going to try to maybe manufacture ships here. I mean, I don't know what their reasoning is, but that's the only thing I could think of. This was first proposed last month, and they're saying it's necessary to protect America's national security and combat the dominance of China's shipbuilding industry, which is built on unfair subsidies. Okay, yeah, I mean, I can see that. But the U.S., we're doing a lot of subsidies as well. Just all the federal jobs. I mean, those are subsidized jobs. Basically, they run up the national debt to pay all these workers. And now, supposedly, all these workers losing their jobs, all these cuts, the agency cuts, all the layoffs, it's going to help us pay off the national debt. That's what we're being told. But that's a huge one there. I'll be really shocked if we even, we're never going to pay off the debt. It's impossible. But if we even slow down the increase of the debt, I'll be shocked at that. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Please let me know what you think down below. I think it's too little too late for that. I think we need much bigger, drastic changes to the economy, not just these cuts and cut spending and these things that are being talked about right now. They're basically just tinkering with the current system. The whole system needs to collapse in order to stop what's happening. In order to stop this destruction of the middle class and the shift up to the top 10%, the mega wealthy, the billionaires, the entire system really needs to collapse. And some people would call that a reset, the financial reset. I'm sure you've heard that term thrown around, especially lately. Some people are even pointing out that all this craziness and insanity is meant to basically smash the current system. So we'll see how that goes. That's definitely a possibility. I wouldn't rule anything out. And I've said this many times. I think 2025 is going to be a wild, wild, wild year. All right, but back to the topic of government-backed markets, in this case, the housing market. The government buying most of the mortgages now. And also on top of that, you got FHA loans becoming even a bigger player in the housing market now versus before the housing bust. And the Federal Housing Agency will not cut Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac loan limits. So we're still going to see this propping up of the housing market with the endless money printer, and in this case, the FHA, still are going to be giving out very big loans. There's no plans to do anything as it relates to the conforming loan limit. So, of course, home prices are so high, they've got to keep the limit up there. It's currently standing at $806,000. And that's an increase of over almost $40,000 just from last year. So they keep on having to raise these limits for borrowing and lending in order to keep the bubble inflated, on top of a lot of other things that they're doing to keep the bubble inflated. All right, now Warren Buffett's back in the news. Is he in a golf cart? What's he doing? Warren Buffett is going to give away $1 million as a March Madness as a prize for the winner that picks the final teams in this college basketball March Madness. I haven't watched one game. I probably won't watch any of the games. I don't know how people actually guess or try to figure out who's going to win this because there's so many teams. I mean, if you look at professional sports, there's 30 teams, maybe 32, maybe 35. There's hundreds of these college teams. And to keep track of who's the player on this team and that team, it just seems impossible. I mean, maybe it'll come down to luck, and maybe you're just looking at the wins and the losses of each team to try to figure it out. Well, $1 million, so I guess somebody's going to be lucky here. An employee from Berkshire Hathaway's pilot training company, Flight Safety International, had a near-flawless record guessing NCAA's men's college basketball games. What are the odds he would work for Warren Buffett's company, Berkshire Hathaway? Anyways, thought that was interesting. But honestly, I could think of a lot better things that I wish Mr. Buffett would do with his money than this whole March Madness giveaway. Some people are going to say, yeah, stick it up at your, you know what. All right, moving on here, folks. And I still want to expose some of the falsehoods, some of the lies here that we were told. We were told that there's going to be no more money sent in foreign aid. Well, just the opposite is true, folks. A huge war spending bill over to, looks like Israel. Rubio expedites delivery of $4 billion in military aid over there. And I think that's just the beginning, folks. So we're not seeing a stoppage of the foreign aid and a stoppage of the spending. We're just seeing it shifting over to different places. So I think there's a real good chance that a lot of what we're being told isn't true. And I know some of you are laughing. You're saying, of course, of course, most of it's probably not true. That's the job of these people that go out there and tell us all their news and their opinions. It's their job to keep everyone in the dark, to keep everyone guessing. That way nobody notices what's really happening economically in this wealth transfer. And when it comes to this foreign aid, we know that the people that get the wealthiest from this are the defense contractors. All right, moving on here, folks. One of these Fed peoples out there, Goolsby's out there. He says lower interest rates coming within a year. Within a year, so more lower interest rates. Let me see. Is that going to help anything? Well, it's going to make it easier for people to borrow money so they can buy things that they normally couldn't afford and maybe finance it a little bit longer. The payments being slightly lower. I mean, is this going to really fix anything, folks? I mean, this is all just, again, tinkering with the current system and expecting a different outcome. Basically doing the same thing within a confined set of rules and expecting a different outcome. We need to throw the rules out the window and let this whole thing collapse. I mean, once and for all. I think most people here would say yes, but maybe some people say no because the consequences of that are pretty dire. A lot more job losses and a lot of other economic turmoil evolves from that. When you turn off the money spigot and when you stop the debt river, basically is what it is, the river of money, the helicopter money, whatever you want to call it. When you stop that, drastic changes happen. It's just like someone that's hooked on something, an alcoholic, an addict, and you pull their substance away, their substance of choice, their addiction. When you pull that away, it is painful. You have withdrawals. I've known people personally that had to detox and come off of alcohol, and it wasn't a pretty sight, folks. People even in my family. And that's the same thing with the economy. When you pull this away, when you pull away the stimulus, all the assistance programs, right? The inner tubes keeping people afloat. A lot of people drown. A lot of people get sick. A lot of people go through withdrawals, and it's pretty ugly. And I think that's why they're avoiding this for so long, and they just keep finding new ways to kick the can down the road. But we're told this time is different. Everything's going to change. Things are changing. That's no lie there, and that's no doubt. But are they changing in a way that's ultimately going to make things better for most people? Moving on here, folks, a few other things to get to here. Credit card provider warns U.S. consumers are spending less. Well, they're still running up debt, but they're just not running it up as fast as they were. There's a few different theories out there on that. One theory is that people are just afraid to spend because they see all these changes happening in the economy. The other is that people are getting maxed out on their cards. According to one study, 1 in 5 cards are at or near being maxed out. According to the largest provider of credit cards in the U.S., consumers pressured by years of persistent inflation are reducing spending as the economic outlook worsens, just like that survey, down to a 12-year low. And the manufacturing index actually just shrunk as well. And this is out of Benzinga, right? It goes on. Purchase volumes have gone down across the industry as consumers across all income groups become more thoughtful about spending. Turning market uncertainty into your advantage. If you feel unsure about it, they're saying get these text alerts for stocks. So definitely I think investing is going to be big for people that want to get through this and still be floating at the end of it, still not not sinking under this what I think is going to be a massive inflation wheel. And there's a lot of people right now. I've never seen opinions so divided on what's happening and where we're headed. Some people say this is the solution. This is going to fix everything. This administration's got it all figured out. They're bringing in a new plan that's going to fix everything. Other people say not so fast. I mean, when you do this type of kind of shakeup in the economy, you typically see unintended consequences. The question is, will these unintended consequences, or intended, depending on which way you look at it, will they ultimately, on the other side of things, make things better as a whole, not just for the top 10%, not just for the billionaires. Like, remember the whole tax cuts for billionaires? The theory behind that was the billionaires are going to save so much money in taxes, they're going to pass along the savings to their workforce. And we saw just the opposite happen. They bought back more of their own stock, their own company stock. They gave the people at the top, the CEOs, the other upper management people, bigger raises and more stock options. And as the stock was pushed up with the buybacks, they got more stock options as well. It's crazy, folks. I mean, it's the way human nature is, folks. It seems like it. All right. Also, over to the stock market real quick. We also have Homebuilders, KB Homes, and Lennar. They're cutting prices as buyers' demand has slowed materially. So we're starting to see this buildup of new homes. When you look at the overall inventory, we're still not at housing bubble correction levels where you're going to see some sort of housing market crash. New homes, yes, inventory is rising, but let's take a look at a chart here real quick on the overall inventory, and I think you'll see that there's not really a housing bust on the way. And here we go. Here we're looking at a chart going back to, looks like mid 2016, and or actually early 2017 rather. And we see that we're still not at the inventory that we were just before the health crisis, remember? So inventory crashed, of course, with the big surge in demand for housing. 2021, 2022, it bottomed out. We are seeing an uptick, of course, summer, and then seasonal ups and downs. But overall, it's an upward trend if you're looking at this chart. But look at pre-health crisis levels. We were above 1.4 million, looks like about 1.45 million. And now we're only at about, where are we at here? 850,000. So still a long ways to go as far as this housing market really doing a noticeable and substantial correction, in my opinion. And again, with the housing market, they're still doing things to keep this propped up. We're still having FHA loan limits increased. And I think we're still going to see the big buying of these mortgages from basically the money printer behind the scenes, which allows banks to keep loaning out money. The non-bank lenders, particularly, able to keep giving out loans without having to worry about the loans going bad, because there's always going to be the buyer in the background, which is basically the money machine with endless borrowing capabilities. A couple more things here. We're going to wrap this one up, folks. Cuts to USDA food banks, risking hunger for low-income Americans. The fact that so many people rely on these programs is pretty sad. Let me just bring it up here. This is out of Reuters. The fact that so many people have to depend on this. USDA cuts hit food banks, risking hunger for low-income Americans. So on one hand, people are outraged at the cuts because there's people out there that need the handouts, they need the food. My thing is, why do so many people need this? Let's take a look at the overall financial setup here and ask ourselves, why do so many people need handouts? What's wrong with what's happening right now? And can it ever be fixed? I mean, maybe I'm overly optimistic. I do think there's going to be a silver lining in the end here. As far as how it's going to happen, I think we need some sort of collapse to kind of shake people out of their illusion that we can just tinker with the current system and fix things with tax cuts or tariffs. Folks, it's not gonna matter, right? It's like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, right? It may look nice while the ship's going down, but the ship is still going down. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm being overly negative. Is the ship not going down? Please let me know. Are we repairing the ship and the ship's going to look better than ever? I think it's going down, folks. But anyways, please let me know down in the comments. Please make sure you're subscribed. Little button right here in the corner, down there somewhere, right? Thanks everybody for watching. As always, keep stacking. We'll see you in comments. Bye for now. Peace.